Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new New World video. We're gonna be talking about Medium Bruiser for Wars. Today's video is going to cover the best in-slot named items, best rune glass to use, what heart rune is the best, the consumables you should be using, best in-slot skill trees, and also stat distribution, and obviously the main combos you want to be running when you are playing Medium Bruiser in war scenarios. However, this is also going to work in open world PvP and OPR, if that is more what you are interested in. However, the main focus of the video is going to be based around wars. We are going to be basing today's video on an artifact called Tumbler Feet Wraps, which in my opinion and opinion of many bruisers in New World is the best artifact to use. However, we will be slightly touching on the Freedom artifact as well, because if you have multiple alt accounts, the likelihood of you not having Tumbler Feet Wraps on all of your accounts is actually pretty high. These are a fairly rare reward if you didn't get them in Season 3, so if you do not have a chance to have Tumbler Feet Wraps, your very next best option is going to have the Freedom artifacts as a heavy pants. So, the very first thing I want to cover in today's video is best in slot named items. Now, we already covered the Tumbler Feet Wraps. You wanna chuck either Freedom as the last perk, or if you do not have a best in slot perk with a Gravity Well on it, you can also consider throwing a Gravity Well onto the Tumbler Feet Wraps. It all depends what kind of other 4 pieces you have alongside with it. So this is going to be the first named item that is absolutely best in slot. Second named item that you can actually farm at the moment that I do not yet have on this account is going to be the Great Axe called the Wrath of Decimus. You can only get it for the next couple of days, and the perk on the Great Axe are Refreshing Move, Thwarting Strikes, and Enfeebling Maelstrom. That is arguably the best in slot Great Axe to use at the moment. You can have a crafted version or you can have a named version. However, if you were unlucky or you didn't get it in time, the second best option right after that is just to have a shirking damage alongside Refreshing Move and Thwarting Strikes. That's also going to do the job just fine. The third named item, arguably the most important one to have, is Ankh. You really have 2 options in Ankh. One is to put Slash Protection on it, so you would have Health, Divine, and Slash Protection. But easily the best option in my opinion is to put the Stamina Recovery on it. Stamina Recovery is going to get you out of so many bad situations that dropping it is really not worth it. So simply put Health, Divine, and Stamina Recovery on your Ankh in order to have the best impact possible. Moving on to the ring, you have another best in slot named option over here on the ring, Privateer's Heirloom. You can get this ring from Barnacles and the Black Powder Expedition, and obviously that should be one of your priorities, one of the things you should absolutely look forward to getting, and you definitely want to put Purifying Heart onto this ring alongside the Slash Damage and Hearty. That's easily going to be your best option. As you can see, every time you press Detonate, you're going to be losing all of your debuffs. Even though in the main combos you want to cleanse Deto anyways, this is going to help you in those situations where your cleansing pot is not available. So, very good option. Some people prefer leeching. It's really not better than Purifying Heart. I wouldn't really change Purifying Heart for any other perks on the ring option. And after you have your Tumbler Feet Wraps, your Great Axe, your Ankh, your ring, there's really one more thing you need or want on a Medium Bruiser, and then is one of the Frigid Dawn pieces item, alright? So you can either get a heavy body or heavy legs. Those are really your 2 options, and you don't want 2 of them simply because then you're gonna have too many magnify pieces. You are limited to 3 magnifying pieces, and I'll talk more about this in a little bit. And I personally have these heavy legs as my Frigid set. For those of you who do not know, you can get the Frigid pieces from the Glacial Tarn Mutated Expeditions, right? So you are gonna be landing on either the heavy legs, heavy body, or well, helmet, gloves, or boots. In this case, we don't really care about those. We really just want either the body or the legs. And that's going to be covering all the named items that you should be getting on your bruiser. If you're wondering why is Frigid set so good, it has the illegal perk combination. It has Elemental Aversion and Enchanted Ward in the kit, which you can never craft or you can't get anywhere else. So just because of that, having one piece of that is obviously super useful. I personally added Health as a 3rd perk on my Frigid set. However, if you do not have a best in slot Gravity Well piece, feel free to put a Gravity Well perk on one of those pieces as well. That way you cover arguably the hardest perk to get on your best in slot bruiser build, so do consider that option. Or obviously if you put the Gravity Well, let's say on Tumbler Feet Wraps, then you have to put Freedom as a 3rd perk because we are playing for Freedom on our build. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the best possible perk combinations for your bruiser build. We already discussed the Frigid set and the Tumbler Fit Reps. Alongside that, you 100% need 4 freedom pieces. If you're not playing 4 freedom pieces, you're trolling yourself, you're trolling your company, you're trolling your war scenarios. Simply being able to get out of the sticky situations, getting out of stuns, getting out of clumps, whatever it is, it's arguably the most important thing on a bruiser. So 100% play for freedom. And then for the perks that come after that, for me, the best second perk is obviously Greet Ward, but if you do not have Greet Ward, something like an Enchanted Ward can also work, and if you don't have that, something like an Elemental version can also work. So in my personal preference, it goes Freedom being the most important, then Health being the second most important, and the third perk you work towards is either Greet or Enchanted Ward or Elemental version. That obviously changes for Tumbler Fit Reps and Frigid pieces. But if we just quickly go over my gear and then we work on what could be improved, my head is Freedom, Greet Ward, Health. If this was 700, absolutely best in slot. If we move on to the body, we got Freedom, Insatiable Gravity Well, Greet Ward. Once again, it covers the Freedom, it covers the Greet Ward, and we have the best in slot perk for the bruiser, Insatiable Gravity Well. This is 700 gear score, perfect for me. Even though there's no health in this, I'm very happy with it. Moving on, this is where my build will probably deviate from some of the other bruisers. I'm a big enjoyer of Empowering Breaker. Now, most people aren't, but let me give you a reason as to why I am. Firstly, I play mostly on point, and secondly, there is very often an SNS guy being right next to the clump. By simply using Maelstrom and hitting somebody with SNS or a few left clicks with Great Axe and you slash the SNS alongside it, you're gonna be working on getting empowered. You're gonna be just dealing more damage. Alongside, I'm pairing it with Freedom, which is obviously a must-have, and Health, which is obviously very decent. I'm very happy with this item. However, again, if you don't want to be running Empowering Breaker, something like a Freedom, Health, and either Enchanted Ward, Elemental version, or Great Ward would be, you know, maybe even a better option than what I'm running here. Moving on to my legs, we already covered this a little bit earlier. Elemental version, Health, and Enchanted Ward wouldn't really change this at all unless you don't have a busy Gravity Well piece. Then I would put Elemental version, Enchanted Ward, and Gravity Well onto the legs. And then obviously I chuck Freedom onto my Tumbler Fit Reps. You could put Grav Well here as well if you don't have the best in slot Grav perk. That covers all of my armor. If you do not know, by the way, I figure it's worth mentioning, you can make any named item 700 gear score and put a perk onto it. If you do not know how to do that, simply go to any kiln in the game. Let's say you go to Eden Grove, you teleport to the city, there is this Gypsum kiln. Scroll down on the items and you will see all of your named items in your inventory. You can upgrade by simply having dark matter in your inventory, matrix of the choice, and then obviously perks of your choice. And I think you need some gypsums as well, but it's really easy to upgrade, especially now that dark matter is a little bit easier to access. So definitely look for those frigid pieces, artifacts, whatever it is, Ankh as well that you need to upgrade. Use the kilns in order to upgrade it. Now that we got armor covered, let's move over to our weapons. Best in slot weapons at the moment, we already covered the Great Axe. Simply Refreshing Move, Thwarting Strikes, and Enfeebling Maelstrom would be best in slot at the moment. Second best in slot would be Refreshing Move, Thwarting Strikes, and Shirking Anything. I'm personally running Shirking Abyss over here, but you can run Shirking Anything. There is also an argument where you play a Refreshing Move, Thwarting Counter, and then Enfeebling Maelstrom on your Great Axe. That's also a very decent option. However, my personal preference is Thwarting Strikes. It deals only 7% bonus damage, but always in comparison to Thwarting Counter, which deals a lot more damage, but only when people are greeted around you. So you got those two options to really distinguish. And then when it comes to Warhammer, we're simply looking at the Sundering Shockwave and Transient Strikes as must-have 2 perks, simply because you're using half heavy on the hammer all the time, or full heavies in some scenarios. And then the third perk is realistically Plague Strikes is the best in slot, and then the second best in slot is going to be Shirking Anything. I personally play Shirking, don't have Plague Strikes. Again, Plague Strikes, Shock, Transient Strikes, absolutely best in slot, and then Shirking would be the next best in slot option. Let's move over to our amulets. We went over Ankh in our named items, so I'm not gonna stay too long here. We got Divine Health, Stamina Recovery with very good passive. Always play Ankh, especially in war scenarios. Moving on to the ring, Slash Damage, Hearty Purifying Heart, not too much to consider here. Get your Privateer's Heirloom, upgrade it to 700 in the kiln, and its strength, it's not even magnified, so really good option. And then when we move over to the earring, I personally believe that the best in slot perks are Fortifying Toast, Regenerating, and Refreshing Toast. Everything here is self-explanatory. Refreshing Toast helps you with the cooldowns for your potions. Fortifying Toast gives you a nice amount of fortify for a decently long amount of time. And Regenerating works really well with the 350 Constitution situation, which we will be playing. However, you could theoretically replace Regenerating with Nimble if that is something you prefer. And that basically covers the best in slot armor, weapon, jewelry section of this guide. Let's move on to the best rune glass to use on your medium bruiser setup. Now, first of all, let's take a look at armor. Yet again, we're going over and you see I have a lot of diamonds, malachites, same in my jewelry, diamonds and malachites. Moving over to my resistances, you're gonna see I have 12.5 / strike thrust, 7.5 elemental across the board. Very balanced. You can play 10% resistances across the board. I personally tend to prefer slightly more resistances on physical. However, as long as your physical resistance is over 10%, your elemental resistance is over, I'd say 7.5% is the minimum. I wouldn't really want to go below that, but you could theoretically play 5% elemental resistance and 15% physical resistance, and that would also be completely fine. When we move over to our weapons, this is where my build deviates from all of the past guides that I've made. As you can see, we're now playing Onyx with a tick in our Warhammer, and I will explain to you why this is so good and so crucial at the moment, but we're sticking with the Opal in our Great Axe. Now, first of all, let's take a look at what changed while we're running Onyx. 15% bonus damage against targets above 70% health. Most of the times when you're dogging out people with a hammer, it's gonna be full HP targets, especially when you're playing the Armor Breaker page, which every single person should be playing Armor Breaker page. You will be dealing a lot of damage to people that are full HP without them realizing. When you pair that with an opening act where Armor Breaker now deals 25% bonus damage against full HP targets, you see where the Onyx starts to shine. Whenever you land that half heavy into AB on a full HP target, all of a sudden they're now 30% and they are in a lethal range, right? The rest of your team members can easily kill them. You could argue Jasper, but at the moment Jasper with a tick is bugged, and regular Jasper is going to charge your detonate heart rune much slower, so I wouldn't recommend it, so Onyx definitely the best option. And while we're playing Opal on the Great Axe, it simply synergizes really well with the pressure of the Great Axe. You always guarantee the 9% bonus damage, because you're always hit, dodge, dodging, and you can always guarantee your 9% bonus damage on your Graph Pops, you can always guarantee your bonus damage on the Maelstroms, on detonates, whatever it is. Opal is simply the most consistent rune glass for your weapon. Now that the rune glass section is over, let's very quickly touch on the heart rune. Obviously, the very best option is your brutal heart rune of detonate. This is by far the best rune you can use on a bruiser. Sure, you could argue about some vines or some bile bombs, but really, play detonate on a bruiser. The other build classes should cover the other heart runes that you need in war scenarios. Don't really be changing this one around too much. Another thing worth mentioning is consumables. A very important part of the wars is the consumables. Obviously, you do want to run infused health potions, that's a must, and you want to be running regenerating serums. As you can see, this is going to be restoring your health, but also stamina. So this now replaces the old regenerating potions that we used to use. Serum is now the best thing to use. But now the most important part, right? Infused arcane absorption potions. If we read the tooltip, it's a little bit wrong. It says that it increases arcane absorption for 5 seconds. However, this is a blatant lie. Let me go ahead and use one. As you can see, I have 45 seconds of protection on my bar right now. And usually it would be 30 seconds. However, if you have lasting consumption of every single one of your bags, which every single person should have, this is now going to be 45-second protection against every detonate that can pop you. Why don't we play Gemstone Dust, for example? Gemstone Dust is much worse option because it protects against all sorts of magical damage. You get hit by a fire staff, a little ice stick, a little tick from your hammer, from your great axe. The gemstone is gonna disappear faster than you can think. So Arcane Absorption Potion is going to protect you against the biggest source of damage for almost an entire minute. So whenever you are entering the fight, you always want to be using Arcane Potion, Regenerating Serum, and Cleansing Pot and get into action, right? Or if you don't have Cleansing Potion, you skip on that part. Usually you do want to use cleansings on the big detos or whatever, but we're gonna talk about this later. Most importantly, you're popping Arcane Pots, you're popping Serums almost on cooldown whenever possible because they last for such a long amount of time. So no other option is better at the moment. Absolutely run Infused Arcane Absorption Potion, and obviously for the last consumable slot, which we don't have right now, we're gonna be running Cleansing Potion. Most important thing in every war, Cleansing Potion. You always wanna pop it right before the detonates, right before you go for your dodge, grab, shock, spin combos, or the dodge, grab, left click, detonate combos, whatever it is, always Cleansing Pots. Now that you know which consumables we can use in a war, we got Health Potion, Cleansing Potion, Serum, and Arcane Absorption Potion, it is worth noting what do we need to pre-pot before going into the war. First of all, pop a Banana Parfait, that's gonna give you 48 Constitution. Secondly, you wanna pop a powerful Honing Stone, that's going to be giving you 7% bonus weapon damage for 40 minutes. Then you wanna be popping Desert Sunrise, that's gonna be reducing the dot duration, and then you wanna be popping Hardy Meal. This is going to be recovering your health every 2.5 seconds. So that's basically all the consumables you need to pop. Now let's quickly talk about the stat distribution. Now this is where very simply you need to be playing 350 corn. On a medium bruiser right now, it's simply by far the best option, and that's why we can only play 3 magnify. So if I were to respec and I were to show you, right, you always want to reach 350 corn, the rest goes in strength. However, if you have a magnify situation, right, you see it collapses and now it's more in strength, you always want to make sure that you have, well, in my case, 3 points over 350 con in order to maintain 350 con and then a few points over 250 strength. Really, the baseline is 350 con, 250 strength, and then you basically change the points around just so you can have good magnify distribution. This is what I'm playing. In an ideal world, you would play 350 con, 360 strength. I don't know if it's possible. If not, obviously you put extra points in constitution. Let's go ahead and talk about arguably the most important thing, skill trees. Now, let's start off with the Great Axe because I think the Great Axe does not have too much variation. We're taking charge, easily the best spell to get out of the bad situations. Most of the times you're gonna be stuck in a clump, you have 2 dodges available and then you can charge out to safety. Then you left click until charge is back available and that's your easy escape. The second best escape is really shockwave on your hammer, and you really want to follow out with a charge out of that situation after it happens, right? But yeah, charge 100% a must. We take all the good passives on the left side of the tree. We're taking the greed, we're taking Death's Embrace, we're taking critical gains, keen edge. Now there is one thing that people ask about, which is frustration. Whenever you attack Sar blocks, you gain stack of 15% damage, and again, this is one of those things where if you pair the frustration with Empowering Breaker on your glove, which is the only armor piece that can run it, you will all of a sudden be dealing a lot of damage if you hit someone with a shield a few times, right? We are not taking feed. This is the most bait spell ever. You're almost never hitting somebody that's under 30% health with Great Axe. Very, very rarely. Don't get baited by the idea of feed. It is bad. Frustration is great. It works on your maelstroms. It works on your left clicks. Somebody blocks your shit, you're dealing 15% bonus damage. And then obviously critical condition, super good. We're taking all the good passives on the left side. And then we're taking all of the perks on the Mauler's tree, we're taking all of the perks on the Gravity tree, we're taking the Crowded Protection, which is really good, gaining more damage when there's 3 or more people around you, always gonna happen in the war, adding Grit on your heavy attacks, doesn't matter, but 12% damage reduction while your Grit is active is huge, 100% take that, and then Mauler's Resolve, super slept on, super good perk. When you get hit under 50% health, you basically get an extra dodge, right? Which is super useful perk. And then the most important thing about every bruiser is this Mauler's Fury. This is going to be amazing every single time. Every single time you swing with a Great Axe, you get 3% bonus damage, going all the way up to 30% bonus damage when you slapped someone around for 10 times. And now, if we can quickly talk about Warhammer, this is where you realistically have a lot more options, and I'm going to talk to you about my personal preference, and then I'm going to talk to you about what most bruisers are playing. Now, personal preference, I tend to get a lot of name aggro, so I am dropping the Epitome of Bonk, which is arguably a very good perk, in order to secure both acceleration and quick recovery. A lot of my combos consist of half heavies, light, half heavies, light, and the reason that I do that is to get my cooldowns back super fast. So a lot of the times I'm gonna be pressured by a lot of people, we're gonna be using our shock to get out of it, and then the more hits I do, the faster I have that shock back, right? So I play around that CDR a lot, and this is the perk that I'm running. Most important perk opening act if you're playing Onyx, shock, super important, POD, super important, obviously the best disruptor spell in the game. We got the Prevailing Spirit, very good. We got Consecutive Impact, extremely good. And then you could go Guarded Sprint to reduce damage by 10%, that's a good perk. You could play Epitome of Bonk, that's a good perk. You could even take Facilitated Expedition. Very decent perk. You can take Acceleration, very good perk. Exhaustive Attacks is a must-have on all the builds, super important. Contemption can also be decent. The thing about Hammer is all of the perks are extremely good. As you can see, I don't take Aftershock, which basically, when I CC someone, they are slowed for 20 seconds since I play on point. If you're more of a disruptor, by all means, you can also take this. Very good perk. So there's like a lot of options. In this video, I'm not going to be changing and showing all of the options. I'm just gonna talk about them. You could get rid of the opening act and put that into Epitome of Bonk. That would be good. You could get rid of Acceleration, put that in the Epitome of Bonk. You could get rid of the third perk of the POD and put it in the Epitome of Bonk. That would be good. You could get rid of Acceleration and put it in the Aftershock. That would also be good. There are so many options that me showing you all these little options where it's literally one passive changed for another just doesn't make much sense. This is my personal baseline and what I've played thousands of hours with. The only thing I would recommend you is get rid of Acceleration and put it in the Epitome of Bonk. And that would be easily best in slot skill tree for Warhammer. But then again, this is just from many hours of experience. I personally prefer Acceleration. I do believe that covers everything skill tree related. So with that being said, let's jump into the main combos. First thing I want everybody to be familiar with is half heavying with the hammer. Now the difference is very massive. So this is a light attack, this is a full heavy attack, and this is a half heavy. So basically, if you look at your character and you see when it turns white because of grit, that's when the heavy starts to be counting. If you release at that point, you're gonna be getting the full effects of your transient strikes whilst releasing and hitting much sooner. So again, this is the half heavy. You see, as soon as I turn white, I let go. Half heavy, half heavy, half heavy, half heavy. Now look at the difference between half heavy, right? Still half heavying right now. So I'm clicking, now I'm releasing. Click, release. Click, release. Click, release. That's half heavy. And I can do it consistently for hours without mistake. Now look at the difference between this and full heavy. Look how slow this is, right? This is super slow and this is super fast, right? This is half heavy right here. Good damage, slightly less than full heavy, but much faster, much more consistent. And then you pair this with a fast AB animation cancel after. That's your bread and butter to be dogging players, right? Now let's go ahead and go through the second most important thing with bruisers, which is understanding how pre-stacking Gravity Well works, or pre-stacking Maulers, should we rather call it, right? So if you look at this thing, we have a Mauler's Fury on the Great Axe, which means that every time we auto attack, we deal 3% more damage, up to 10 stacks, meaning if you hit 10 times before you do anything, you're gonna be dealing 30% bonus damage. That is a lot of bonus damage, and let me demonstrate it. Let's say I'm Gravity Welling with no Mauler stacks. Let's analyze the pop. 2.2k damage, very small amount. We haven't utilized the Mauler stacks and we haven't utilized the Opal in our Great Axe. Now, let's do the same thing whilst pre-stacking 10 times. So if you look at my bar, just above the health, we're now 6 stacks, 8 stacks, 10 stacks of Mauler, right? And now I'm gonna do the combo as it was supposed to be made. So we're dodge grabbing and we're hitting, and usually you add the Maelstrom to it, but look at this, 3.3k damage. Just like that, 1.1k more damage, right? Pair that with a Detonate and Maelstrom at the end of the combo, and you have a massive increase on everything you do. Alright, so the big combo is going to happen right now from the collar, right? We are pre-potting our Arcane and our Regen on cooldown, so you don't worry about that right now, right? The big call is happening, let's say, in 10 seconds, right? We're farming up our Detonate is ready. Call is in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're grabbing, we're detoing, we're cleansing, we're dodging, we're spinning. We got the Deto explosion, we got the Grav explosion, we got the Maelstrom hit with 30% bonus damage. We were cleansed through this entire duration, and then after the big bump, declump, get out of it. Right? That's the idea behind it. Obviously, while stalking, it's a little bit harder to do. But you want to make sure you're Arcane potted, you want to make sure your Serum is sticking, you want to be sure you have Cleanse spot ready, you want to make sure you're comfortable clicking Deto, dodge grab, few left clicks, dodge spin on the pop with detonate. That's what you gotta get familiar with. After that, you either get out of it, you are not using shockwave on the big clumps, because if you use shockwave on the biggest clumps, people will get automatic dodge rolls out of it. So avoid shocking. You can throw an AB in if you don't have other spells available. You do not shock and you do not Path of Destiny into the biggest clump. You Path of Destiny into the healers outside, and you shock either if you're like under pressure. Obviously don't be dying if you have your shock available, right? Fuck it, sometimes you might need to use shock and give enemies a dodge roll in order for you to survive, that's fine. But in an ideal world, your dodge grab, hit spinning with the explosion, and that's really what you need as a bruiser. Alongside that, if you're comfortable half heavy ABing, that's basically what you're looking for, and that really covers everything bruiser related. And how is it that every time I want to record this, there's a little fight situation going on? But that basically covers everything. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, share it with your company members, and maybe subscribe to the channel and help me grow this beautiful New World community. I'll catch you guys around. Be safe, have a beautiful 2024, and bye bye.